All right, ladies, this one's for you, though. Let's be honest, you're probably not going to take the time to listen, even though it would actually make your lives a lot better. Might actually help you have a happy, healthy relationship. Because you see, today I'm tackling a question that I get from women all the time. And what is that question? Why doesn't my husband or boyfriend want to have sex with me anymore? Why doesn't he initiate anything? No, really, I get this question at least once or twice from women, either in my email or DMs. In fact, I got one earlier today from a woman who wanted to get my opinion on her situation and went into a 5-page dissertation on their married life and how things started out. You know, how they started out, let's say, fast and furious, and now have sunk faster than the Titanic while Rose was lying on the door letting Jack die. So ladies, if your romantic life for the past few years has been colder than a penguin's butt and about as action-packed as one of those old Bob Ross painting shows on PBS, though, to be honest, I used to love watching those shows back in the day, well, I'm going to tell you why, though, as I said, you're probably not going to like it. Let's get to it. Anyway, as I said earlier today, I got an email from a woman, and the particulars of her situation that this woman shared really aren't anything to focus on because, honestly, they really aren't all that different from what I hear from other women, and yes, sometimes even men. So I thought I'd just sum it up with a blanket statement or question, which is, why do men stop initiating intimacy within relationships? And no, ladies, it's probably not because of the reasons you think. So why do men stop trying to get a little something something? So why do men stop trying to get a little something something? Now, the easy answer, and the most likely conclusion most of the women out there watching this will immediately jump to, is he must be cheating. He must be getting it elsewhere. And of course, there'll be the few that just chalk it up to something like, well, he's just lost interest because he can't get it up anymore. You know, blaming him for not being manly enough because, yeah, that's going to somehow make him want you more. I just swear. But I'm here to tell you, ladies, 9 times out of 10, it's not either of those. Though in the latter case, his inability to be a man of steel might be symptomatic of the problem, but not the actual cause. More on that in a bit. The truth is, for men, the reasons are a lot more emotional and a lot more painful than most women can even begin to understand, or even allow. Here's the short and sweet of it. Most men stop initiating intimacy not because they don't want their partner, not because they're not attracted to her anymore, but because they no longer feel wanted by their partner. Let me say that again. Men stop initiating intimacy when they stop feeling wanted, respected, valued, and appreciated. Yeah, ladies, those should sound pretty familiar to you because they're pretty much the very same reasons you cite. Funny how that is, but you can't seem to grasp it, can't fathom it. Contrary to what you believe and what you and all your girlies have convinced yourselves of, within the context of a relationship, a marriage, intimacy isn't just physical for men. Far from it. But it is deeply tied to how loved and accepted he feels as a man. It is the very connection he needs as a man. See, you're all about your fifis, and in a manner of speaking, so is he. Oh, he's not going to say it, he's not going to put it that way. But just like you, he needs to feel wanted and desired. Just like you, he wants the aforementioned respect, value, and appreciation. The difference, though, is in how you want to get it. For you ladies, it's more in the mind. For us men, it's more about the physical interconnection. Women bond through thoughts and emotions. Men bond through physical connection. And no, ladies, that doesn't make him or men in general wrong. It's biological. It's instinctive. It's intrinsic to who men are. It's how we've evolved over millions of years. And you telling us that we need to be more like you is akin to telling a vegan that not only do they have to eat the steak, but they also have to kill, gut, and butcher the meat from the cow before they do, simply because you say so, because you've decided that's how it needs to be. When a man is denied intimacy, when he is met with constant rejection, when he's brushed off time and again because you're too tired or too busy or you just plain don't want to, or because you'd rather finish binge watching the latest episode of Virgin River, wishing the entire time your husband was more like that pathetic castrated main character, or you're more focused on whether or not the forks were put in the dishwasher the right way, what you're doing is sending him a message, a very clear and distinct message. And that message is, you don't love him, you don't want him, you don't care about him, and you don't need him. And when he's made to feel like he's annoying or a bad person for wanting connection with you, when you make it clear you don't understand that it's not just about him putting his stick in your wicket, then you are telling him his wants, his needs, his desires for you don't matter. Not in any way, shape, or form. To put it another way, he doesn't feel like a man anymore. He feels like a burden. And nothing kills a man's interest in intimacy faster than when you make it clear that to you, he is a burden. Then there's the transactional element that almost all of you ladies live by. You know exactly what I mean when you make it clear to him that intimacy has to be earned. That your love, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and most certainly physically, isn't something that you're willing to give freely. It's a commodity that has to be bought and sold, has to be earned. And if he doesn't pay enough of a price, well, sorry, the store's closed. Virtually every one of you women does that to one level or another, but some of you, well, let's just say Sears has more traffic these days than your mall. When you make lovemaking and intimacy conditional, when you tell him maybe, and it's always maybe, never a commitment, that if he did the dishes or watched the kids or fixed the faucet or booked an expensive trip, you'd be more interested, well, once again, you're sending a very clear message. You're making it abundantly clear he isn't your partner, isn't your priority. He certainly isn't your one and only or bae or whatever those other terms you want to use. He's your client, plain and simple. He is literally nothing more than a paying customer. Only there's no guarantee he's actually going to get the items he's paid for. And the delivery charges on top of all that, well, even Jeff Bezos admires how much they are. And when that happens enough times, and it does way more than you ladies will ever admit to yourselves, it stops feeling like love and starts feeling like a transaction. Starts feeling like prostitution because that's exactly what it is. And yes, ladies, it's you who have made it that way. When physical touch is something a man has to buy with chores or emotional labor, when he has to start asking himself, did I do enough to earn it before I try? He then inevitably gets to the next step, the one where he starts to ask himself, why am I doing this at all? Does she even want me? Or am I just here to provide for her? Am I just a walking wallet? Why should I bother with her when I can get it for far less stress, far less aggravation, and far less money from that girl on the corner? Because, sorry ladies, when you make it transactional time and time again, you really are no different than that girl on the corner. Well, except she's probably going to be way more enthusiastic in the bedroom than you'll ever be or have been. But I digress. Even worse than that is when you make it so obvious that you've turned intimacy into a task to check off on your to-do list. You know, you aren't doing it because you want to, you're doing it because you think you have to. It's not done out of love, it's done out of obligation. It's just a box you need to tick off once in a while so you can believe that you're being a good wife. No spark, no passion, no eye contact, and no effort. Oh, I know you think we don't notice it, ladies, but trust me, we do. We know when you're just going through the motions. We can tell when you're just laying there like a warm hot pocket, working on your grocery list and counting the seconds till it's over. We feel that shift from I desire you to let's get this over with, and nothing will kill his interest faster. At that point, it becomes emotionally safer and frankly more satisfying for him to just take matters into his own hands. No rejection, no coldness, no emotional toll. No trying to get it up while your brain is wondering, is this more of a sexual assault than intimacy and lovemaking? Better he handles it himself than feel like a dirty, disgusting pig. Oh, and while you may think he isn't doing, that, while you may think he's not getting any at all, trust me, ladies, he is. He's just figured out that it's better to go solo than deal with all your drama. So there it is, the 3 biggest reasons why men stop initiating. Now, to be fair, sure, there are others like legitimate medical or mental issues. But sorry to say, ladies, while you love to fall back on those to rationalize what's going on, the fact is those instances for men are fairly rare. Men aren't women, they're men. And if they aren't showing any interest at all, it's likely because you've taught them there's no reason to. In the end, it comes down to women doing one or more often all of those 3 things I just mentioned. Look, we aren't talking about you being too tired tonight or too busy or even just not interested once in a while. That's perfectly normal, perfectly okay. There are always going to be those days for both men and women. But when you're on day 147 of being too tired and day 531 of being too busy, well, the bottom line is this. Men have been trained quite literally from birth to expect rejection, resentment, or at best resignation. And we can deal with it up to a certain point. But when the emotional cost becomes too high, well, he's going to check out faster than you and your Amazon card on Prime Day or a certain CEO at a Coldplay concert. Not because he doesn't love you, but because the pain of trying to start hurts more than the pain of not bothering at all. Ladies, when you deny him intimacy, when you turn it into a game, when you make it conditional by saying things like, oh, I'd be more willing to if only he, fill in the blank with some relatively unimportant task in the scheme of life. Like folding the towels correctly, as if that matters at all. What you're showing him is that he simply doesn't matter to you. That's the reality, and I know you ladies don't like hearing it. But if you're watching this and thinking, that's my man, don't assume he doesn't want you anymore, because he probably does. But you've made it so cumbersome, so unrewarding, so bothersome, that there simply isn't any point for him to try anymore. There's no joy in the intimacy or connection to be found, so why bother? If he's not showing interest, the problem most likely isn't him. It's you. So take some accountability. Take some responsibility. Ask yourself, have I made him feel wanted lately? Have I showed him that I value him, that I appreciate him, that I love him in a way that he wants to be loved? Have I treated intimacy like connection, or is it just another payment due? Because here's the truth. Most men crave connection with the woman that they love. And yes, especially physically. In fact, they need it. It's how men define relationships. And if you constantly turn that definition into rejection, performance, or obligation, well, my little darlings, eventually, he's going to stop knocking on a door that's always closed. And that, my friends, is when the real damage begins. It really is that simple and that complicated. But ladies, the ball's in your court. What are you going to do with it?